Hello and welcome. My name is Sam Horn, and this is our AUTHOR-Preneur section of our Stop Wishing, Start Writing community. I'm so glad that you've joined us, and you know me. I hope you have pen and paper in front of you, because our focus today is how we can craft a hook, line, and thinker. Now, what do I mean by a hook, line, and thinker? I mean a memorable one-liner that pops. Now, what do I mean by pops? I mean a one-line sentence that is P for purposeful, O for original, and P for pithy. So that's our goal, because as you're about to discover, if you want your work to get quoted, if you want headlines that capture people's attention, if you want a table of contents with chapter titles that make people eager to read your book, if you want memes that can make your social media post go viral, well, then you want to come up with pop. You want to come up with pop sentences that help you do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll, let's go. First, let's talk about what it means to be an authorpreneur. I coined that term more than 20 years ago, and here's what was happening at the time. As you know, I was the executive director and the MC of the Maui Writers Conference. Writers Digest called it the best writers conference in the world. And now, back in those days, publishers had the keys to the kingdom. Here was the process. You would send out a query letter to an agent, and you would wait, and you would wait, and you would wait. And if you were lucky, you would hear back. However, most of the time, it was with a rejection letter. And this was the process for 95% of authors for the entirety of their career. They would spend their whole life sending out dozens, hundreds of query letters, never hearing back, or getting a standard rejection letter. And maybe if they were lucky, they would have the agents. And otherwise, there was vanity press. Those were your two options. About 20, 25 years ago, things started to change. In fact, Dan Poynter, who is considered the guru of self-publishing, felt that it was not right or fair for publishers to be the only valid, viable way to get your work out in the world. That if you had a story or a message that might add value, that there deserved to be better options for you to take responsibility for doing that. And so that year, I saw this shift take place in one panel. I had put together a panel, and we had the heads of industry and then a guest I'll tell you about in just a second. So it was Brian D. Fiore, the head of Hyperion, which was Disney's branch of publishing. It was Sally Richardson, who ran St. Martin's Press, one of the top publishers. It was Neil Nyron, the top guy at Penguin Putnam. Here was Bob Loomis, one of the top guys at Random House. And we were talking about marketing. Now, they were talking about cap space. And if you walk into a Barnes & Noble or a Borders, back then there was Books A Million, etc. Bricks and mortar stores were where most people bought their books back then. If you went into a store, cap space is the display at the end of an aisle. And publishers actually paid to have their breakout books at the end of the aisle. They competed for that cap space, and they paid for it. And sometimes they would have an entire launch about having the cap space in all the Borders around the country, but someone else had already bought the cap space for the week where they were going to have their big launch. Now, in the middle of this argument and hotly debated topic of cap space, Brian D. Fiore of Hyperion noticed that this little upstart at the end of the panel hadn't had a chance to say anything. Guess who the upstart was? Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup for the Soul. I had invited Jack to come and speak at the conference. And Brian thought, oh, we should give this guy a chance to talk. So he kind of threw Jack a bone. And he said, so Jack, what are you doing in terms of marketing? With his beatific smile, Jack said, Well, we just pre-sold 1 million copies of Chicken Soup for the Pet Lover sold to Iams and to Sargents. And we just got back from a meeting with Walmart where they're going to be putting all of our chicken soup books in all of the fronts of all of their stores. Boom, 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 boom. 5 jaws hit the table. Because see, up until then, publishers traditionally did all of the marketing. Like when my book Tongue Fu came out, they sent me on a media tour. They set up the TV shows. They set up the radio shows. I went and signed stock at Powell's and so forth. They took complete responsibility for marketing. Once you got a book deal, if you were fortunate enough to get a book deal, you were in their hands and they took care of you. What Jack Canfield introduced on that panel is that he was not going to sit around and wait for the publisher to market his book. He and Mark Victor Hansen were going to be entrepreneurs. They were going to take the initiative. They were going to do very unusual and uncommon things to get their books in the hands. I'll always remember at our presenter orientation, a guy named Hillel Black, who was head of William Morrow, was talking with Jack. And now Hillel was kind of a small man and he was looking up at Jack. Jack was talking about how they got their books in beauty salons and how they got their book in car washes. And Jack and Mark asked himself, where do people wait? Why don't we take our books there and we'll put out a few sample copies? And I remember Hillel looking up at Jack and he finally couldn't contain himself anymore. And he said, beauty salons? Beauty salons? He said, how do you get your book in beauty salons? Well, by being an authorpreneur. So I coined that term. I started doing sessions at Maui Writers Conference to tell those authors, do not wait to get a publisher and do not wait for your publisher or expect your publisher to do all your marketing for you. Annie Lamott said, expectations are resentments under construction. Expectations are resentments under construction. And if we wait for someone else to do our marketing of our work, we're going to be waiting a long time. So in our first session of Authorpreneur, what we're going to focus on is one of the single best things you can do, and it's free, to start getting your work viral and visible and viable. We're going to be talking about how to craft memes. Now, what I mean by a meme is a memorable one-liner that you can use once again throughout your work. You can use it in blogs, you can use it in chapters, you can use it to title, headlines, social media, etc. And it's going to help get your work noticed. Okay, so we're going to rock and roll because I've got about 15 minutes here where I'm going to go right through a process on how you can do this. Then we're going to have time to brainstorm 2 people's sentences to see if we can make them even more thought-provoking and what I call cot-provoking. So rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Number 1 is, what is your big idea? Right now, hopefully you're writing this down. What is the big idea of your project? Now, if you're thinking, Sam, what do you mean by big idea? Here you go. What is the change you want people to make and the action you want people to take? I'll say it again. What is the change you want people to make? What is the action you want people to take? Now, by the way, noticed how I'm practicing what I'm teaching here, and I turned that into a meme by using rhyme and iambic meter, etc. So the first step is to think, okay, in my book, in this blog, in this article or column or something, what is the change I want people to make? What is the action I want them to take? Okay, that's step number 1, just to get clear on that. And by the way, you can have a lot of them in a book. We're just going to work on 1 today. Step 2, distill that into a 20-word or less sentence. Because if it's 30 words, it's too long, they're gone. It's going to be too complicated, going to go in one eye and out the other. So what we want is a single sentence, not 2 sentences, 1 sentence, hopefully 1 line, because we're going to showcase it in our work. Okay, so that's the second step. Now, by that way, that sentence, I already said it, I'm going to say it again. The goal of that 20-word sentence is to pop, is to P, be purposeful. So once again, purposeful is, have you captured the action you want to take, the change you want them to make? O is for original. This needs to be your language. It's while we riff off what other people say and take exception to it or flip it or something like that, we can't take someone else's quote. That's not our meme. We can quote them and credit them and then riff off them. However, if somebody else said it before, then it's not a hook, line, and thinker for us. All right, step number 3. How do you make it pop? You are going to make it contrarian. Okay, contrarian means to take exception to what people believe is true. So if you're writing about leadership, if you're writing about stress, if you're writing about parenting, if you're writing about health, if you're writing about diet, write down 5 things that people assume to be true. It's what they've always been taught. It's what they currently believe. Now flip it, take exception to it. Do the opposite of that, poke holes in it, tell people why it's wrong. It's one of the quickest way to get people's eyebrows up is to tell them that what they think is true is not. So how can you make it contrarian? And by the way, when we go through these steps, I'm going to share 20 different fantastic one-line memes so you can see these at work and you can hear why they are in integrating all of these different criteria. Okay, next step, surprise. And how we surprise people is we replace an expected word with an unexpected word. So you may take a cliche like Avon did for their walk, and they said, good things come to those who walk. You see, they took the expected word and they replaced it with an alliterative word. Chris Rock said, money doesn't guarantee happiness. It guarantees pause, options. Ooh, see, it doesn't guarantee happiness. And then surprise, what does it guarantee? The eyebrows go up because we didn't see that one coming. Now I'm going to give you lots of others. Hang in there. The next criteria is to juxtapose it. What I mean by juxtapose, we talked about this, is you put a vertical line down the center of a paper. And on the left, you put what doesn't work. And on the right, you put what does work. Or on the left, you put before. On the right, you put after. On the left, you put what sabotages your health or your relationships. And on the right, you put what supports your health and relationships. On the left, you put what compromises your beliefs and behaviors. On the right, you put what contributes. So when you juxtapose, it's not this, it's do this. This is wrong, this is right. This is in the past, this is in the future. And when you craft a sentence that shows what not to do and what to do instead, or what we used to do and what we want to do from now on, when you juxtapose a sentence like that with these 2 contrasting elements, and then you make them alliterative, the words alliterative, you have crafted an airtight sound bite that is unique to you. So once again, I'm going to give you lots of examples of these in just a moment. Just write down the criteria and then we'll show you how and why they work. Okay. Oh, by the way, do you want 2 of my favorite examples of that? And by the way, these are 5 and 6 words. These are what I call tip of the iceberg memes. And when I say tip of the iceberg memes, I mean they are wisdom in 5 words. I mean, they are profound. You can't hear them without wanting to discuss them, debate them, delve into them, because they have so much depth. So Temple Grandin, I had an opportunity to meet her. You may know she is an animal advocate. She also has autism. I had a chance to meet her in Houston at a livestock show. And in 5 words, when she is talking about her autism, do you know what she says? I am different, not less. Whew, think about that. I am different, not less. Do you see the juxtaposition? Here's the premise, and then take exception to it, or surprise people with something they didn't see coming, or replace, what you thought was going to happen with something that you didn't think was going to happen. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a lovely phrase that I'm using in my Tongue Fu 2.0 book. You ready? We are different. We are one. Isn't that nice? Do you see how that captures, yes, we're different. We have different points of view. We have different politics. We have different whatever. We are one. And do you notice she took out the word and? So it's not a long sentence, we are different and we are one. Do you see that's a little too long, right? It's a little too wordy. No, take out the word and. We are different, period, stop. We are one, stop. True, true. Do you see the power of editing that down? So Strunk and White said every word must tell. Okay, now let's go into the next criteria. A is for alliterative. Alliteration is when words start with the same sound. And it makes us instantly eloquent. It makes our language lyrical. And now just listen to these words: bed, toilet, and shower, Dunkin' croissants, best purchase, kind of clunky, right? No, make those words alliterative: bed, bath, and beyond, Dunkin' Donuts, Best Buy, Rolls Royce. I'm telling you, if in your blog headline, if in your chapter titles, if in your book title, if your meme has alliteration, chances are it's going to be more musical, which means it's more pleasing to the ear. All right, next is Iambic Meter. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. Las Vegas says that the slogan, if what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, has generated more than $1 billion worth of business for them. And then the next one, R is rhyme. Rhyme is sublime. And now what we're talking about is not word play, it's word profits. Because you can make money from memes. Memes put money in your pocket. And memes can save lives. They are not petty, they are pivotal. In fact, the US government was very concerned about injuries and fatalities in car accidents, so they mounted a multi-million-dollar public service campaign, and they rolled it out: buckle up for safety. Nothing happened, nothing changed, millions of dollars down the drain. So they went back to the drawing board, and this time they came up with a rhyme. What is it? Click it or ticket. Now here's the thing: compliance went up and injuries and fatalities went down. They actually saved lives by crafting a meme, a one-liner, a hook, line, and thinker that changed behavior. Okay, 2 more criteria. Let's review now. Number 1 was to come up with a big idea. What action do you want people to take? What change do you want them to make? 2 is to distill it into a 20-word or less sentence that pops. It's purposeful, original, pithy. 3 is to have something contrarian about it, where you're taking exception to what people believe about your topic. 4 is to surprise people by switching out an expected word with an unexpected word, so they're, it's caught provoking. 5, is to juxtapose. 5 is to juxtapose, and that is to actually put a vertical line down the center and to have your premise and then the action, or not this, but this, or wrong or right. 6 is alliteration, to make your language lyrical, to make it musical. 7 is to have iambic meter, put it in a cadence. 8 is rhyme, and 9 is to hook and hinge. Now, a meme often is nice by itself. However, it is when you take the hook, which is the key idea, and you hinge it back to readers with 3 you questions. You know, have you ever been in that situation? You know, is that happening in your home? You know, has someone done that to you? Because now you have just made your idea their idea because they're personalizing it and relating it to their circumstances. And then number 10 is, I was just working with someone on their LinkedIn profile and their web copy today, is that if it's a great hook, line, and sinker, put it on its own line. Never, ever bury it in a paragraph. Because these days people have short attention spans and they scan or they skip long paragraphs. If a paragraph in your written work is more than 4, at the very, very most 5 lines, people won't read it. It looks visually daunting. It feels like it's hard work. And that's when they start skipping and scanning, which is why we have a 2-line paragraph, a 1-line paragraph, a 3-line paragraph, a 1-line paragraph, so that it's visually appealing and accessible. So people are pulled into the momentum of your copy because it's so easy to read. Everything lands on its own. So when you get a great hook, line, and sinker, or meme, or one-liner, or airtight soundbite, make sure put space around it. Arthur Levine, who was editor for J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter at Scholastic, came up to me after I was emceeing Maui Writers Conference in his keynote, and he said, "Sam, I love how you speak. You put space around your words." We want to put space around our memes. Okay, now those are the criteria. And Kendra, I think someone had, a couple people had put into comments a one-liner that they would like to brainstorm. I think we've got about 10 minutes left, so let's rock and roll. What's one of them, please?
Okay, we have Mason, and his one-liner is, "With great chutzpah comes great responsibility." And he says he's working on a 4-part live chutzpah class that is scheduled to begin on October 27th.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have an agreement. If I say something, if it's in alignment with your vision, voice, and values, you're welcome to run with it. If I say something for whatever reason you don't agree with it, interrupt me, push back, we'll tweak it or toss it. Sound like a plan? Okay. Does chutzpah and responsibility rhyme? No. Are they alliterative? No. We've got the juxtaposition with great chutzpah. Now, I imagine, Mason, that you're playing off the with great whatever comes responsibility. What's the normal word that goes in there?
It's with great power. I think it's from a Spider-Man movie.
Ah, with great power comes responsibility, huh? Okay. All right, so when we're riffing off another line, just by the way, what do I mean by riffing? I do not believe in ripping off other people. That's taking their work and not giving them credit. Jazz musicians, though, will take standard chords and then they will improvise and make new music by riffing off standard chords. So what Mason is doing, he's taking something that, at least for people who like Spider-Man, with great power comes responsibility. And also, is it with great privilege comes responsibility? Is that also a variation on that theme?
It might be. I only saw one of the movies.
Yeah. Okay. So chutzpah, we alphabetize that. What rhymes with gutzpah? I mean, with chutzpah. I think gutzpah does. I think you have an opportunity to create a new word with great. Great chutzpah takes gutzpah. or something like that. Now, what does gutspa mean? Mason, I know actually part of your work is listening to your gut instincts, right? When you want something, when it's important to you and your gut is saying, go for it, or this matters, or this is important, don't suffer in silence, speak up, right? So even chutzpah takes gutspa. That at least fills the criteria of like, what is he talking about? Which will motivate people to go to your website, read the rest of the blog, open up the column, or find out, keep reading the social media post or something like that. So that's one. Okay, chutzpah, gutspa, dutspa, futzpah, chutzpah, mutzpah, putzta, tutsta, butsta. I'm just going to play, and this is silly. However, as you know, that's part of brainstorming. That's when I say just play. You throw it out there, and then you do your due diligence to see if it is going to actually work. I'd also play with the word butzpah. Is that, because when you've got chutzpah, you're going to run into butzpah, right? Well, I know, but, right, we can't do it because what? Well, yeah, you asked for that job, but, we can't afford it, or something like that. And Mason, how about give me 3 other premises of your book, one at a time? What's another big idea premise of your book?
Carpe Diem, basically seizing the day, the opportunity, is fundamental to the model.
Okay, so now I'm just going to play for a second, okay? It's like orange juice came up with a great meme based on seize the day. Do you know what in 3 words, what it was? Squeeze the day. I mean, they had a whole multi-million-dollar ad campaign around an orange, squeeze the day. So if you're going to you want to run, what does seize the day mean to you?
If you're waiting or postponing, if you're procrastinating, if there's always a reason to put off what you're trying to achieve or something new to start, you're lacking one of those key behaviors of chutzpah.
Okay, we're going to keep playing, okay? It's like even don't wait, initiate, right? Do you see how wait and initiate? Wait is over on the left. What we don't want to do, what do we want to do instead? Initiate, and wait and initiate rhyme. So that's the kind of subtle thing that you can just integrate into your work that elevates the craft of it. Now, you talked about when you said put on, put off. I'm just playing now once again, but say put off is over on the left and put on is over on the right. So are we talking about putting on our big boy pants or something like that? Instead of putting off what's important, we put on our courage hat or something like that, right? Okay, let's keep going. What's another big idea from your work?
To not get frozen by decisions.
Okay, all right.
More on the frozen juice.
Okay, good. Put frozen on the left and flow over on the right, right? Now, see, here's how you create original content. Over on the left, it's fight, flight, and freeze, correct? Those are the norms. What if instead of in an intimidating, stressful situation where you would normally fight, flight, and freeze, chutzpah helps you flow? Okay, now that's a pretty good one right there. And go to an intimidating, when you're dealing with an intimidating person, instead of fight, and freeze, wouldn't it be nice to flow? Or chutzpah helps you flow instead of fight, flight, or freeze. That's a pretty good one right there. All right, let's see. Do we have one more that I think we have 5 more minutes left. So.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else you want to work with, or is?
Yeah, I think Lee,
Okay,
did you have, Lee wrote in the chat, I think she'll say what she wants to say, but her initial one was move from your head to your heart and experience the magic.
Okay, now, good for you. Thank you. First is that remember, move from your head to your heart, period, right? Make the magic start. Okay, do you see how stop when it lands, when it's harmonious, when it's musical? And then see now if you can loop back, move from your head to your heart. And what did I say? That's when the magic
Make
starts.
the magic
right?
start.
Yeah, that's correct. See, that's already better, isn't it? Because we held ourselves accountable for ending on something then rhyming. You have the alliteration. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that is what I'm doing. I'm moving people from their head to their heart, because I know that that's when you live in magic and where your true power is. And this is crazy ass spinning bullshit. So that's what I'm doing. The book title, I'm not quite sure about yet, but the stories show from my life how it sucked. And then it was amazing because I was able to get there.
Okay. Now what you would do is that all those words you're saying suck, you would put that over on the left, because see, suck is what we don't want. So this is how we craft original insights. You put suck over on the left. You said something about power. What else did you say about power? Something?
I said, when I move from my head to my heart, that's where my true power is.
Okay. So put power. Okay. Okay. Guess what? Put cower over on the left, right? Okay, don't cower, don't cower up, power up, or
power,
something like that, right? Okay. All right. How about another big idea from your work? Okay, now what is an action you want people to take or a change you want them to make?
Well, that makes me think of moving from fear to love, which is in line with this.
Okay, so put fear over on the left and put love on the right. Now, right now, that's not a meme, right? Because there's no rhyme, there's no cadence there, whatever. So if we start, you had fear where we already did the flow thing. So is faith the opposite? Move from fear to faith? Okay,
No.
just put it down. Just write it down because we tweak it, right? Or you start with love over on the right. And what's the opposite of that? Well, lecture, love,
The
limit.
world we see.
What?
The world we see.
The world we see.
I think that that's what's happening in the world is people are disconnected from here and they're living in fear, and we see a fearful world.
Okay. All right. Okay. What we fear, we dear. I just have to, some of these I do for myself. I was just in Houston with my son, Tom. And do you know what his favorite pub is called?
What?
Beers to You. Sorry.
Yeah, just all and playful.
That's exactly right. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. I promised, and now we've got, we need to wrap up in 3 minutes here to keep my time promises so that you can always trust me to stay online. Here are two people who role model what we're talking about, because there are hundreds of thousands of marriage therapists and relationship experts and self-help authors and social media influencers. And yet these two people are incredibly popular. Why? They have mastered the meme. Here are just a few examples of it. All right. If I say no and you get angry, that doesn't mean I should have said yes. So if I say no and you get angry, do you see how that's over on the left? That doesn't mean I should have said yes. Now, just the subtle should and say are alliterative, so that helps it pop. All right, this is Glennon Doyle again. I used to numb my feelings and hide. Now I feel my feelings and share. Okay, so it's over on the left. What did she used to do? She used to numb her feelings and hide. Over on the right. Now I feel my feelings and share. All right, here's another. This is the kind of surprise one. Don't get so concerned with raising a good kid, you forget you already have one. Ooh, isn't that good? Doesn't see what I mean about a tip of an iceberg idea? I don't know a single parent who could hear that and not think, wow, Have I been really critical of my kids? Have I been catching them doing things wrong? Instead, could I catch them doing things right? You know, could I be a coach instead of a critic and shape their behavior instead of shame it, so they learn instead of lose face? So I'm treating them with respect so they don't resent me. Yep. Okay. Couple more. Okay. We can choose to be perfect and admired, or we can choose to be real and loved. Interesting, huh? Now, once again, we can riff. Over on the left, all of you right now, write down, we can choose to blank. Or we can choose to, over on the right, blank. So on the left, we can choose to blank, over on the right, or we can choose to blank. Now fill in your own work, right? We can choose to do it the way we've always done it. We can choose to get angry, or we can choose to acknowledge. You know, we can choose to blame and shame, or we can choose to whatever. All right, a few more. People who need help sometimes look a lot like people who don't need help. Interesting. Now, see, what she just did is she juxtaposed the idea. Now, if you hooked and hinged there, you would say, please think about people at work. Is there someone who looks like they don't need help? Is there someone who looks like they have it all together? Maybe they're hiding that they need help. Hide help. Maybe you could reach out. So do you see how you take a line like that and then you use your you questions to create a dialogue instead of a monologue? All right, now Esther Perel, who I happen to know. And okay, when you pick a partner, you pick a story. Woohoo! Isn't that interesting? What story are you telling? Right? Do you see now the hook and hinge helps make that meme, right? Because it just lands otherwise. When you ask, that's when people start making it relevant to them. Now, here is probably one of Esther's most popular memes because it's so contrarian and thought-provoking. Ready? Love is not a permanent state of enthusiasm. Woohoo! Okay, now, once you start crafting memes, what is it a permanent state of? See, if it's not, over on the left, a permanent state of enthusiasm, it's a permanent state of what? Of opportunity? Take enthusiasm and start thinking of words that would, it's going to be hard to rhyme with enthusiasm, but you could come up with an alliterative word that would cause peace. Wow, if love isn't a permanent state of enthusiasm, maybe it's a permanent state, I'm just doing this in real time, folks, of optimism. Interesting, right? Because now you're rhyming the ism, and you can hope, you can believe, you can trust that things are going to get better. Okay, a few more from Esther Perel. This behind every criticism is a veiled wish. Whew. Now, see, that doesn't follow the rhyme or the meter, but boy, is it powerful. And it will be even more powerful when you hook and hinge it. And when you say, so instead of criticizing someone, could you ask for what you wish? Instead of saying you forgot to feed the dog again. How are you going to remember to feed the dog, right? Instead of telling someone, you never listened to me. Could you please put your phone down and listen to me? Do you see how that's the power of a one-liner? It is an entry to a thought-provoking, self-reflective where, okay, behind every criticism, when did someone criticize me? What did they want? What were they wishing for? But they just piled on instead of asking for it. And last point. People always ask, okay, Sam, do you have memes for your work? I think you can tell. I don't do a LinkedIn post without having memes. You know, I don't do a chapter without having memes. When I did a TEDx talk, I thought, Sam, you got to have a meme. There's got to be one line that people would repeat word for word of something they heard. It's not great. It's better than nothing. And you know what it is? If you want to succeed, you've got to intrigue. If you want to succeed, you've got to intrigue. Now, succeed and intrigue, you think those don't rhyme. They do because they have the E, the intrigued and the succeed, you know, and they're both two syllables. If you want to intrigue, you've got to succeed. And it makes kind of what is clunky work. And it got my word intrigue in there in a purposeful and original and hopefully pithy way. Okay, so that is it for tonight. I hope that those have been helpful. Now, we have our Facebook community, and we really are inviting you, asking you, encouraging you to say, okay, I came up with one. What do you think? And I may be traveling or whatever. Kendra, though, is watching the community every single day to see if you asked for something and she can respond or monitor feedback and whatever. So please put your hook, line, and thinkers, your memes, your one-liners up on the Facebook page. I look forward to seeing them. And our Wednesday writers next week is going to be our book club. And I hope if you haven't already that you've read The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. We're going to be putting up in our Facebook community like 5 questions to prompt our discussion, because this is a facilitated discussion. This is not me talking about the book. This is saying, okay, what was your favorite quote from the book? Okay, what's one thing you did different as a result of the book? Okay, what's one epiphany you had that was an eye-opener for you as a result of the book? So we really dig into her teaching and apply it to our own work. So I am Sam Horn. I really am glad you carved out time to watch us in real time and to check it out in our archives as well. And I can't wait to see your hook, line, and thinkers. Right on.